All right, I didn't mean to put a kibosh on your MVP discussion, but I want to talk about all the awards in segment 2. So let's get right to the big one. I think the fact that Judge has tied the record is enough to make his case. I think the fact that his stat line on baseballreference.com is just a full line of dark italic stats.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani is a very good pitcher and a very good hitter.
Great.
And Voltron that into the discussion of value. And you know what? I wish that whoever invented this award called it Player of the Year and not Most Valuable Player, because it would have made this whole discussion a lot easier to do. But I digress. It's a philosophical thing, and you and I have talked about it to death, which is what's more valuable, a great hitter or a very good pitcher and a very good hitter in the same body. And I don't think either argument's wrong. And I think it takes a historic season to wrestle it away from Shohei Ohtani, and that's what we've got. So that's why I give it to Judge, but I do not, and this makes it sound like I'm trying to do a Johnny Cochran type rhyme here. I give it to Judge, but I do not begrudge anyone who says Ohtani.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, over the last 10 years, we've made up all these stats that tell you how much more valuable one guy is over the next, and all the value stats tell you Aaron Judge, you look at WAR, he's the best player by far in WAR. You look at WRC+, he's the best player in that. He could potentially win the Triple Crown. He currently doesn't lead in average, I believe, but he could still win the Triple Crown. He's tied the AL record. Every stat you could want, Aaron Judge owns. He's on the team with the best run differential in the American League. And look, I love Shohei Ohtani. He's probably a top 5 hitter and pitcher, which is just absolutely insane. But yeah, I do feel like your team record matters a little bit. Like, his manager was fired. At one point, his team did lose like 20 straight games. I feel like all that matters. While Aaron Judge, his team has been phenomenal all season. I feel like that offense needs Aaron Judge. I feel like you can't just swap the two and you get the same results if you're the Yankees. You need every one of those 61 home runs from Aaron Judge, because I don't think that offense is really that high octane without Aaron Judge in that lineup and all those, power home runs and doubles he had throughout the season. So I feel like if Aaron Judge is on the Yankees and you swap the two, I feel like the Yankees probably aren't as good with Shohei Ohtani, to be honest, even though a lot of people try to make that argument. And I don't even like to do the hypothetical switch the two people argument, because we don't live in that world, Sully. We can't live in the multiverse of madness like Doctor Strange. We can't do that, Sully. We only have this universe. So right now, with what we've seen from this year, I have to go with Aaron Judge over Shohei Ohtani for MVP.
Yeah, and again, for those of you who are throwing something at your at the whatever you're listening to me on, keep in mind, I'm not saying you're wrong if you decide to go with Ohtani. But here's one thing: I don't really like to look at the team record as much, but I will bring this up. When the Yankees were sputtering and they had that bad August that made people think, "Oh my God, are they going to blow the division lead? They're going to blow the division lead." What do you think Judge's OPS was in August?
Probably still like 950, I bet.
1.091.
Okay, even
it was still over 1,000. When the Yankees were sputtering, he was still producing. Imagine if he went into a slump. They would have dropped those games. So not only was he the statistic, whether you like if you like traditional stats, great. If you like new sabermetric stats, guess what? We got him for you too. And if you're looking about his effect on the team, if he sputtered at the same time the team sputtered, they probably would have fallen to second place. And so the fact that during the rough patch, he kept the team afloat and no one got to, they never got to within 2 games of him, despite how they didn't even win. They won one single series in the month of August. I think that's correct. 1 or 2, but they didn't have a good August. Mm-hmm. But Judge continued to produce. Again, Ohtani is the MVP until proven otherwise, in my opinion. And I think Judge proved otherwise.
Yeah.
I think they're 1-2, and I think that if you said Ohtani, I'd say, okay, I totally understand. I don't think it's going to be unanimous. I don't.
No.
But I think Judge had the type of year that would make that exception. And as always, for me personally, I have the Coen brothers rule. If you've already won an award, I'm not going to weep if you don't win multiple awards.
Yeah, and
So,
from the Twitter community vibe, it seems like most people are riding with Ohtani for MVP, but I do feel like there's also a value in a guy being 6'7", playing right field with a cannon, being able to throw out pretty much anybody on the base, and being from right field and being able to throw it all the way home on a rope, on a dime. Like, that's a different level of value too, because Ohtani does limit your lineup construction. Like, I'm not saying like having Ohtani in the lineup is a bad thing, because he's one of the best players in baseball, of course, even from just a batting perspective. But he does limit what you can do in your lineup, because he has to play the DH, and he's not going to go out there and play the field.
So does Ohtani get the consolation prize known as the Cy Young Award? You could make a case for Ohtani being the Cy Young Award winner. And let me just you could do that using you can use you can use the sabermetrics world. He's top 3 WAR. If you want to use more traditional stats, he's number 4 in the league in earned run average. He's in almost every major category: walks and hits per inning pitch, hits per innings pitched. He leads the league in strikeouts per 9 innings. If you still like wins, here's where I'm not a huge fan of using wins as a metric, because so many factors go into it. But I will point out that he's 2 wins behind the league leader, and he's doing it on a garbage team. The fact that the team has a losing record and he is only 2 wins behind the person who's going to lead the league in victories almost makes me want to use that stat. Now, I personally, I don't know if I give it to Ohtani. I think right now, my top 3, Ohtani makes my top 3. But Verlander I have on there. And you got to, and the one I'm leaning towards is Alek Manoah of Toronto, who is, in only his second year. I put a lot of value on innings pitched. And the fact that he leads the league in innings pitched, he almost has 200 innings pitched, has a super low ERA, has a great strikeout to walk ratio, and is the ace of a team that is a playoff team. Alek Manoah is my pick to win. He would be who I would vote for as American League Cy Young Award winner.
Wow. I would still probably go with Justin Verlander, because I still feel like he's been the most dominant guy in the American League this year. I'm not confident in Ohtani even cracking the top 5 in Cy Young voting this season, because the American League is going to be very tough. I have number 2 and number 3 pretty much tied. I have Manoah and Dylan Cease, because I feel like Cease, Manoah pretty much have had like the same season this year. They've both been super dominant, right next to each other in ERA. And then Ohtani, he's been super dominant this year, but the innings pitch is always going to be a killer for him, like you just mentioned. You love how Manoah has led the league in innings pitch, has been a workhorse. Ohtani is a workhorse on the day he pitches. The thing is, he can't pitch every 5 days like a normal guy, because he has to also be in the lineup hitting you 40-plus home runs and driving in 100-plus RBIs throughout the season. So I don't think Ohtani might he could crack the top 5 in Cy Young voting. I don't think he'll crack the top 3, because you also got a guy in Framber Valdez in the Houston Astros who will probably be number 4 or 5. He set the major league record, I think, this season for consecutive quality starts in a given year. So the American League Cy Young voting, the last 2 seasons has been super stacked, the candidates in the race. And I think it's just going to be another stacked year. When you look at that, well, actually, I take that back. Last year, I don't think it was that stacked, but this year, I think the American League Cy Young race is very stacked.
Okay, the American League Rookie of the Year, I think, is pretty cut and dry. I in Julio Rodriguez, what he's done, he's just been such. Adley Rutschman has been a great addition to the Orioles. George Kirby's done a fine job with Seattle, but the Mariners season turned around when Rodriguez showed up. They're a different team with him. And in fact, any forecast of Seattle's chances in the postseason rests solely on Julio Rodriguez's shoulders. He's already become that type of a player. And I think that I think he's maybe the unanimous Rookie of the Year in the American League.
Yeah, I think it's more of a conversation for who should be runner-up and third in the American League voting, because I had a tough time figuring out who should be decided after Julio, because I think it's run away with Julio. Near 30-30 season, all-star, put up a phenomenal show in the home run derby. It's just been a fantastic season from start to finish from Julio Rodriguez. But for like runner-up, I got maybe a Joe Ryan from the Minnesota Twins. Yeah. He's had a very phenomenal, maybe not phenomenal, but very good season.
He's a solid player, solid rookie year. Yep.
Yeah, solid rookie year. Bobby Witt Jr., not a great Royals team, but he had a near 30-30 season, just solid numbers across the board. Even got like George Kirby, not a ton of innings pitched, but still very solid numbers across the board. So there was a lot of good rookies in the American League, maybe not great rookies like Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, and there was only one great one. Manager of the year. This is an interesting one because tell me who you think the manager of the year is, because I think
I know who you might pick.
I have two choices, but tell me. I have one winner, but both my 1 and 2 are former manager of the years.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I think it is, and I'll tell you who I think you're going to pick. I think it would be Scott Servais. Is that how you say his last name? Servais?
Yeah, Servais. Yep.
Servais, yeah, of the Seattle Mariners. Just because if you're the manager of the team that breaks the drought for longest playoff drought in sports history, I think you just have to win manager of the year. I think it just has to be a given. So there's not even a lot of analysis there. He broke the playoff drought. You're getting the award, dude. But I think for you, Sully, I think you're going to go with the former Red Sox great Tito of the Cleveland Guardians to win manager of the year, because he's had a great season. The Guardians haven't won that division in a while. He's dealt with health issues the last couple of years. He's come back strong this year. He's been there the whole season, and it could be his final year because of those health issues. So I think for all those reasons, you're picking Tito.
I almost picked Dusty because this is Dusty's team, and they lost Correa. They were, this was a team that people were thinking was probably maybe on the way down, and they had a 100-win season. Now, Dusty's won the manager of the year several times. This is now Dusty's team. This is no longer they inserted Dusty into it because of the S storm that happened post trash can gate. This is his team now. And I think he's done a fabulous job. But it has to be Francona for this reason. This is a team. They're a 90-win team. This is a legit playoff team. They are not only younger than any team in baseball, they have younger than any team in AAA. This is a bunch of young kids. This is a bottom 5 payroll team. They're paid like they're the Marlins or the Pirates. And if you take a look at this team, the way that they were put in a situation that the day before Labor Day, Minnesota caught them. And so they looked at and said, oh, man, we have the rest of the month. We are neck and neck with Minnesota, and Chicago only a game or so behind. And what did they do? They kicked the snot out of everybody. They played 9 games against the Twins and won 8 of them. They smacked around the White Sox. They ran away with the division. And the fact that he got that young team to believe in itself, to face that adversity, and to do so without an MVP candidate, without a Cy Young candidate, with just a bunch of young kids running first to third, and you have the former Cy Young Award winner Shane Bieber had a terrific second half. You had the All-Star Jose Ramirez is still a very, very good player, but you got the Steven Kwans and the Ahmed Rosarios and the Jimenezes and the Ramirezes and the Gonzalezes of the world. I meant to say Gonzalez instead of Ramirez. Who just sort of like, you got these guys. Who is this guy? I don't know, but he went first to third on a single. And that he did that. And this team is a dangerous team going into the postseason because A, they're healthy. B, they have the best bullpen in the American League and certainly the best closer in the American League with Clase. They will drive a team bananas with their speed. And they have a pitching that could match up well with the Yankees. I don't think the Cleveland Guardians are going to the World Series. I'm beginning to think it's going to be Houston. But the fact that he's doing all of this with this team, to me, this is Francona's award.
Yeah, you got to love Tito because he's a force multiplier. He's like the Tom Brady of managers. He doesn't need elite weapons. He doesn't need elite players. He's maximizing the talent of everyone on his roster. Like you just mentioned, you go up and down the lineup. It's not a lot of elite talent there. Jose Ramirez is great, but outside of that, he's getting a lot of career seasons, a lot of rookie talent, really playing above maybe expectation levels that we had for them coming into the year. So Tito, it just does that. You're getting the most out of your rotation with the McKenzies and the Shane Biebers, who we've seen be great in the past, but never over the course of a full season. So he's pushing all the right buttons and he's maximizing the talent on his roster. That's what Tito has always been able to do, and it's one of the reasons why he's going to make the Hall of Fame one day as a manager.
All right, let's talk about the National League. Your buddy Goldschmidt looked like a lock for a while.
Should still be.
And you know what? I still would vote for him. He's still my pick. But Arenado and Freddie Freeman are both two guys who deserve a lot of.
They're close.
It's pretty close, and I could listen to arguments for Nolan Arenado, for Freddie Freeman, or for Goldschmidt. I would lean towards Goldschmidt, but again, I don't think you can go wrong with anyone. I think none of them are having the dominating season the way Judge is, so they're all having MVP caliber seasons. So it just kind of leans on your own personal taste. I would go Goldschmidt, but I would have no issue if someone voted for Arenado. Those are your top three right there: Arenado, Freeman, and Goldschmidt. And I think it's pick 'em.
I actually don't have Arenado in my top three. It's very close, but I was like, if I'm going to have, I felt like I couldn't have two players from the same team in my top three, even though for WAR, I do believe Goldschmidt and Arenado actually tied for WAR, but I do feel like Goldie has had a slightly more well-rounded offensive season. At one point, we felt like he was going to win the Triple Crown. Obviously, he's not. Freddie Freeman quietly has 13 stolen bases this year. He's double-digit steals, which is just amazing for a guy who's in his early 30s and more of a lumberjack kind of a dude, more of a plotter on the bases than a speedster. But another dude who I have in my top three, I still have Manny Machado in my top three. He still has a fantastic stat line. I know Juan Soto's there now, but he had to carry that offense so much throughout the season. It looks like the Padres are going to make the postseason. They were able to kind of really lock in on that second wildcard spot and kind of pull away as the Phillies were starting to come back to the pack. And I think when you look at that offense, Manny Machado has been the driving force the whole year. And I can't put Freddie Freeman as high as one or two just because he's on the Dodgers. That team is so stacked. I just feel bad giving a guy an MVP award to a team that's full of MVPs. I just feel like that kind of goes against the spirit of the award a little bit, in my opinion. So that's why I'll put guys like Machado and Goldschmidt ahead of Freddie Freeman.
All fair. This is one. One that I don't think there's any discussion on. The only discussion I have is the middle finger I'm going to give to the organization he plays for. The Marlins have Sandy Alcantara, who should be the unanimous Cy Young Award winner. I mean, we're safe with that one?
We're saying he's Cy Young, but actually looking throughout the stats again, it's a little bit closer. He's come back to the pack a little bit. The stats might be a little bit closer than you think.
Oh, please. Okay.
The innings pitched he's killed, but he's not running away with overall stats.
Who else you got?
I mean, Zach Gallen, he's going to be in there.
You got to sneak in the Diamondback player. Who else? You got to bring in Madison Bumgarner. You got to give him a vote.
I mean, Zach Gallen only had one of the longest scoreless streaks of all time in Major League history, 44 and a third. We went over a month without seeing Zach Gallen give up an earned run, Sully. That's got to matter for something. Year. He also leads the league in whip and hits per 9, and he's also top 5 in strikeouts. He's going to be top 3 in every stat, Sully. He's going to be number 2.
Top three.
Sandy's definitely it. I'm not saying Sandy's not it, but he's a little bit closer than what we once thought. Maybe he shouldn't be unanimous. Maybe you give one vote to somebody else, just so it's like a 99% share for Sandy. That's my only point.
The thing that makes me angry is that the Marlins are going to sit him. He's done, and he has one more start, and it's against Atlanta. And that could mean something. That could mean the difference between Atlanta going to the division series or having to play in the wild card series. And look, if you clinch, like if you're Cleveland, you're New York, you're Seattle, you could do whatever you want. You've earned the right to sit or do anything you want. But if you are having a meaningless game for your team, but it could have meaning to the pennant race and the actual how you're going to unfold the postseason, then you've got to play your best players for the integrity of the game. I have no
the integrity.
Well, it's like, the Marlins are not going to throw their Cy Young Award winner. Why? Well, we want to give him one day extra rest. And that could be the difference between if the Braves and the Mets are tied going into the last game of the season, and that's the difference between the Mets going to the division series or the Mets having to burn DeGrom and Scherzer in a wild card series. I'm sorry, you got to throw your best pitcher.
What if they're doing it to evaluate one of their own young starters? What if they're throwing Sanchez out there?
This is not spring training.
No, we can't see.
You got a Cy Young. He pitched this week. He pitched
what?
great against Milwaukee. Milwaukee won the game, but he threw a complete game. They had to beat him. They had to beat their best. Now, if Atlanta beats Alcantara, then you tip your hat to the Braves. Say, hey, you put your best on, you beat them. But if you don't play your best, what? To give them 3 days extra rest?
Maybe they're
before the off season?
Maybe they're protecting Sandy's Cy Young candidacy and making sure he's not giving up 8 runs in 2 innings.
Because Zach Gallen's right on his heels.
Exactly. All of a sudden, Zach Gallen's taking over in the Cy Young race because you have a terrible start against the Braves and now your ERA is blown up. I see what you're doing, Miami Marlins. You see Zach Gallen's coming for you, and you're trying to slow down that train. Very respectable, Miami.
All right, I'm mad. I'm mad. Okay, let's move right on.
Right.
The one thing is absolutely a given. The National League Rookie of the Year is going to be a member of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
The only question is, will it be Michael Harris or will it be Spencer Strider?
Yep.
I think either one is fine. They both have wonderful. I would personally give it to Strider because what he has done to give the Atlanta Braves pitching staff an extra amount of depth, especially with some of the injuries they've had to their bullpen. To have that extra depth in their rotation, I think is one of the reasons why they're going to be a 100-win team. And maybe win the division, maybe repeat as World Series champions. But Michael Harris II, much better than the first, is been a great player. And so I think either one of them, I'm fine with either one of them.
Yeah, I'll probably lean Strider because he has over 200 strikeouts and like 130 innings pitched. This guy could potentially be the next 300K strikeout guy in a season. He set the Braves, I think, franchise record for strikeouts in a single game because I think he has 17 strikeouts in one game earlier this year. Michael Harris has been phenomenal as well this season, but I'll give it to Spencer Strider. But once again, Sully, I think the real thing that you're watching out for in this race is who's going to finish third. I think third in the Rookie of the Year voting is actually going to go to another Diamondback, another top 3 award guy, Jake McCarthy, who's batting over 290, above an 800 OPS with 20-plus stolen bases in like only 100 games this year. Jake McCarthy deserves third in the NL Rookie of the Year voting.
I have no problem with that.
All right, there we go.
Now let's go to the Manager of the Year because right up until recently, I thought this was a lock for Buck Showalter. Mm-hmm. Especially when he had him in first place without DeGrom and Scherzer. Now he has him not in first place with DeGrom and Scherzer. Look, they're going to win 100 some odd games, I assume. I assume they're going to, break 100 wins. But who else do you pick on that? I mean, you could go Bob Melvin, who could win the Manager of the Year with his third different team when you consider the injuries and the suspensions on that club and that they're going to make the playoffs. Do you give any love to Dave Roberts as the 110 win Dodger team? No, none for him.
Not when you have 10. No.
All right. Well, then I'll tell you who I'm giving it to then.
I'm
going to give it to Snicker.
Mm.
They got off to the clumsy start and, he has them, they were dead in the water and, he's already won a Manager of the Year, but, this is going to be his greatest regular season, whether they win the division or not. He already has the most of any regular season victories. And, I lean towards him.
I can't hate that. I'm going to put Snicker second on my list because I'm going to go with the guy who you mentioned to start off, and Buck Showalter, just because he turned around a cursed franchise. There's been a lot of years we come into a season with expectations for the Mets, and usually they go nowhere near those expectations, but Buck Showalter was able to possibly exceed those expectations so far, at least through the regular season. A revolving door of players throughout the year, a lot of injuries in that lineup and rotation. So I felt like he's done a great job managing that team. I will have Brian Snicker second on my list. He's been phenomenal. The Braves had that slow start, able to turn it around. Now they might win the division, but they were already a pretty good team last year. I mean, they're the reigning World Series champions.
I was going to say, go out on a limb there. They were a pretty good team. They won the World Series.
Yeah, and there were some question marks coming into the year with the whole Freddie Freeman, and they trade for Matt Olson and then Ronald Acuna. There's always like weird stuff with him and the team, it seems like. So there was some question marks and some controversy. They didn't miss a beat. So they looked phenomenal. I think third on my list, I actually got a guy, first-year manager this season. He's took over for a guy who probably shouldn't have even been fired last year after winning 90 games with his team. But Oliver Marmol, why not give him third in the manager of the year voting for the St. Louis Cardinals? They won the division. I mean, you're going to bring in a new manager. Your team won more games and you clinched the division. I mean, what more could you have wanted as the Cardinals franchise from your new manager? So he should get some love.
And I will just say, I'm giving some love to Dave Roberts because it's one thing to have a huge budget and tons of expectations. It's another thing to meet him. It's another thing to be given all this where, you have to be brilliant or you're a failure. He's won over 110 games with his club. It's the greatest regular season in the history of the Dodgers. So sometimes when we've seen so many times, there have been teams that are big budgeted, that are filled with stars, that they fall short. How about giving credit when someone doesn't fall short? Now, again, Coen Brothers rule. Dave Roberts has already won the manager of the year. So I can't sit here and go like, it's unfair. No, I understand why you wouldn't. Well, he's supposed to do that. He's supposed to do that. Well, guess what? He did. He was supposed to, and he did. And in the last 5 full seasons, not counting the COVID years, his last 5 full seasons, his team has won 104 or more games every year, except for one. And then, of course, the COVID year, they won the World Series. Yeah. So I have no compunction saying that I think that he deserves credit for saying, hey, we put this team, what are you going to do? I don't know, give you the best team you ever saw. So I don't think, I've seen plenty of times where there have been teams that are, oh, this is a super team this is a super team this, that fall on their face. And they lost Walker Buehler. They lost Tony Gonsolin. And they were in a division with another legit playoff team with the Padres who are going to make the playoffs, and it's not even close. So you got to give a little bit of love for that.
We could give him a little bit of love. Let's not give him too much love because look, he's had the super team for a while now. Maybe if it was his first year building this super team, you added all these players in the offseason, but it's been a pretty consistent super team for a while there now. So I'm not too surprised that they won another 100+ games in the season. All
right, we've gone way over here. I've given us too much love. So Millard Thomas, tell people where people could follow your podcast.
Follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram. We're on YouTube, Locked On Diamondbacks on there as well. And, of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
You can follow us at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and the show is at Locked On MLB Pods, both Twitter and Instagram. Yelling at each other, disagreeing, and giving Roger Maris' son a break. This has been the Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover for the third day of October 2022. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. That's Millard Thomas. Call me Sully. Let's fist pump.
Boom.